Hello everyone! Today we will be building an Elementor Heatmap Widget from scratch. To make this come together, we will be using the OpenStreetMap API. We will use OpenStreetMap to generate the map, and we'll use Leaflet to generate the heat maps. So this is a heat map. I've provided some latitude and longitude locations, and as you can see, these are printed on the map. On the Elementor side of things, we have a map widget, we have my map widget, which we can drag into the page. I will delete this one for a moment, and then we'll have data source. It can be either local or remote. Local is hosted by ourselves, remote is hosted somewhere else. We have to provide an URL then. Local will just upload a CSV file. I don't have one at the moment. And then we have our map settings, and its minimum value is 100 pixels. Otherwise, the rendering of the widget won't work. So I'll just leave it at 400 pixels. I quickly fetched myself some sample data. So in the map widget, I go to data, local, upload, and in here I will put a data.csv, which is just a CSV file with some latitudes and longitudes in it. Select it, publish, refresh. And here's our map. This is what we're going to create today. So to start off, let's create our main plugin class. So inside our plugins folder of our WordPress website, we will create a new folder, my-map-widget. In this folder, I've created my-map-widget.php. You'll see it in here. Voila, here is an empty file. Now we'll have to fill that file. First and foremost, we have to enter our plugin metadata so it will show up in our plugin hub. I'm just going to copy and paste that here. So it's my plugin name, the URI, a description, a version, my name, my website again. I made a typo, and the license. First thing I'll do is if not defined upspot. Exit. This is just to prevent if exited directly. Okay, so the first thing we gotta do is we need some JavaScript and CSS, like I told you in the introduction. So we're gonna use Leaflet, we're gonna use Leaflet Heat, and we're gonna use Papa Parse. These three things work together to bring everything on the map. So let's go over it. So first function, my map widget Enqueue script add action wp Enqueue scripts this function. So when the document is run, we will enqueue certain scripts. So first of all, we're going to register the script. wp register script leaflet, and we have to fetch this from a CDN. You could also put it in a vendor folder or something, but for the sake of it, I'm just gonna get it from the CDN. So you can get this code from the source code. I will paste the link down below in the comment section, so you don't have to look for it. Then we don't have any dependencies, so that's an empty array. We won't version this right now. And we'll put true as the last parameter, so this script is rendered in the footer instead of in the header. Then we'll enqueue the script, so enqueue script leaflet. Okay, that enqueues this script. Now we'll have to do that a few more times. So I'm copying leaflet, and now I'm gonna make it leaflet heat. Leaflet heat. This is another CDN file. This one does have a dependency. It's going to be dependent on this one. So what this means is this script will only run when this script has run. Just to make sure, because this is dependent on this. Okay, one more, and this will be Papa Parse. Another CDN entry. This is not dependent on anything. And Papa Parse. Hopefully I didn't make any typos. Now we need one more thing to render the map wonderfully. We will need CSS, so function my map widget enqueue styles, and in here we'll do wp register style leaflet, again it's a CDN, and no dependencies and no versioning. This is the CDN URL, and now we'll only have to wp enqueue style leaflet, and we'll of course have to add it to an action hook so it's actually running. So wp enqueue scripts, this one is shared, it does the same. My map, okay, I'm just gonna copy this. So my map styles. So what this will do is we will hook into the wp enqueue scripts our styles also. Okay, so now that we have enqueued all our scripts and styles, we can actually start building our class. So inside the my map widget folder, I will create a new folder called includes. Inside the includes folder, I will make a new file, my map widget class, or you can also call it class my map widget. It's completely up to you, but I do think the WordPress standards say to put the class in front of the file name, so my bad. Alright, in here I'm just gonna open PHP. Again, this is a good practice to do. If someone is trying to access this directly, they will be exited. And then we'll do class my map widget extends Elementor widget base. Okay, so what this does is this will create a new my map widget which extends the widget base. Now that we have created this class, we can hook it into our system via the following function. So in our main plugin class my map widget.php, we will do add action, and then we'll do this on the action Elementor widgets registered. We'll run an anonymous function and we'll put this on a priority of 999. This is just so it's actually gonna run last, because I run into issues that I get Elementor widget base not found issues, which means that this code is actually running before this widget base has been set up by Composer. So that is just why I put a low priority here. So in here we'll do require once plugin dir path for this file includes my map widget class.php. We have to do require, not include, because we actually need the file. We can't continue without a file, and we would like it to throw an error when this file could not be included, so that's why I'm using require. And then we'll do Elementor plugin instance widgets manager register widget type, and then we'll do new my map widget. And if we've got everything correctly, in here we will see our plugin my map widget, and we can activate it, and the plugin is active. All right, so now that we have added our widget to our WordPress instance, we will have to define some metadata on the widget. This is just to make sure that our widget is displaying in the Elementor side panel. So in here we'll do public function get name, return my map widget, public function get title, return, let's make it translatable, my map widget, this is the translation domain. Then we'll get an icon, so public function get icon, return e-icon Google Maps. You can't use font awesome icons in here. There is a way to do it, but it's not provided out of the box. So if you want it, you will have to go through some hoops to make it work. So e-icon is Elementor icon. if you look for this on Google, there's a complete list of Elementor icons which you can use. It's a bit stupid sometimes because the one I'm using, e-icon Google Maps, is already used by another Elementor widget, the Google Maps widget. So yeah, it's a bit redundant, but you can get the job done. Now one last thing, we will have to put it in a category. So put public function get categories. This can actually put it in multiple categories, but we are just going to put it in general. That's why we put it into an array. We could add pro or basic in here, and that would put it like there. Okay, so now if I haven't made any mistakes, I could go to the pages, my sample page over here. I'll have to edit it with Elementor, of course. Oh, require once. Failed to open stream, no such file directory, my website public WP content. I'm a widget.php. I made a mistake. So now that we have our map widget on our page, we will need some controls to actually operate our map widget. So we'll create under the get categories function, we'll create a protected function underscore register controls. This is the name of the function you'll have to put because it's defined in widget base. So in register controls, we will first do a new section. So this start controls section, we will call it the data section. This will have an array of some information. So the label will be data, my map widget, and the tab will be Elementor controls manager tab content constant. All right, so this will create a tab, and then we'll have to create 3 controls. Okay, so don't forget the semicolon. In here we'll do this add control, the data source. The label will be, I'm just gonna copy some data source. The type will be, I'm just copy pasting so I can type a little bit faster. So the type will be Elementor controls manager select. And then we need some options. So our options will be an array of, again, our first option will be local, which will be local. Then we'll have remote, which will be named remote. This is our identifier, and this is our string, or how do I say that? The title. And then the default option will be local. So by default, the first option will be selected. Let's see how that looks in our widget. Unexpected token. I made a boo-boo. All right, semicolon here. And now when we check our widget, we should see a data source, and we have local and remote, and local was set by default. Great. All right, now we need 2 more options. One if the user selects local, and one if the user selects remote. So this, I'm gonna copy over this. So, and I'm gonna edit it here. So local data, the label will be local data. The type will be a media field. I will show you in an instant. The media type allowed will be only CSV because we will expect it to be CSV, and this field should only show if the condition of this field is local. So we'll do condition array data source is local. So what this will do is this field will only show if the user selects this for the data source. We'll quickly add the remote data. So again, remote data label will be remote data URL. The type will be a text widget. Then no media type, and the data source will be remote. Now we'll have to do one more thing, and that is to this end controls section. So this will just shut down the control section, and this will create a section out of this. All right, so when we refresh our page, we will see that we will now have the option to choose between local and remote. If we choose local, you see the click the media to upload a file, and this is the media field that I've defined right here. Type media. So when we click this, we get the media uploader. If we go to remote, the remote data URL will be shown. Okay, so now that we have added our data source section, we will need one more section, and it is the maps section. So this start controls section, map section, and this will have, I'm gonna copy of course, don't type too much. Label will be mop, and this will be tab content, and then we'll add a control like this. This control add control map height. The label will be map height. The type will be a number field, and the default of our field will be 400, which will be translated to pixels. The min will be 100. This is because we really need our map to have a certain height. If it doesn't have a height and it's height 0, our leaflet JavaScript library will generate errors. And the description will be enter the map height in pixels. Minimum value is 100 pixels. My language. Don't forget to end the control section. And if I have done everything correctly, I do now have a map where I can change the height. But it's not doing anything right now. Of course not, because we didn't have a render function yet. Now we actually need to render things on the page. To do that, Elementor has two functions. The first one is protected function render. This function takes care of all the rendering in the front end. And we also have protected function underscore content template. This function takes care of re-rendering on the backend in the editor. So every time a reprint happens, this function is run again. In this function, we have something simple. We will just we will drop out of PHP. We will drop back or jump back into PHP. I will simply put out a div with ID my map widget map. Like this, and we'll give it a style of height 400 pixels. In our actual render function, we will need access to our settings. So the settings is this get settings for display. What this is gonna do is this is gonna get all the settings we've defined in here. So whatever the client has chosen will be put into a settings, which is an array. So from there, we will get our data source. This will be settings data source. As you know, we have configured a data source over here, data source, and it can either be local or remote. So we're going to check based on that. So if data source is local, we'll do something, or else if data source is remote, we'll do something else. And my typing is so bad. All right. In case of local data source, we will first need to get the URL from our upload. So because as you know, we did an upload, we uploaded a CSV file and we need that URL. So to do that, we'll do local data is settings local data, which is our local data field. If we have local data and it's not empty, then we will instantiate the data variable here, and we will set that variable data to file get contents local data URL. We also need to check if not empty the URL here, because local data will not be empty, but the URL also might not be empty. Should not be empty, I should say. Now for the remote part, this is a little bit easier because the remote setting will always give URL, so that will just be remote data is set remote URL. So now, and we'll do just if remote data is set, we don't have to if remote data is not empty, So here we just check if we have remote URL set. This has to be remote data. So here we just check if remote data is set, then we'll get, we have our data set. We will check if we have any data. So if not empty data, then we'll do something. So the first thing we'll do is we'll style. No, the first thing we'll do is we'll drop out of PHP, because otherwise our style won't work, and drop into PHP back here. So we'll do my map widget. Map is height, and this height, we will get this height from our height setting over here. But how are we going to do that? Well, drop into PHP again, echo settings. Remember, we have our settings and we have our map height setting. But we'll have to concatenate .px for pixels. And back into PHP, like this, and everything's working. And we'll have a min height of 100 pixels, so everything keeps working, of course. Like this. All right, awesome. Now we only need a map HTML structure, yes. So div, I'm gonna steal that from here. But we don't need the style in here. Now that we have this set up, we will need to create the actual rendering of our map. To do that, we're gonna open script tags. We'll do that right behind the div, but above our opening PHP tag. So in here, we'll do document.add event listener, and we'll listen for DOM content loaded. Like this, write it exactly like this. We'll open an anonymous function, and in here we will write our code. So we'll do for map is l.map, and then we'll get our ID from here, and we'll set the view to 0, 0, which is the right in the middle of the world. I will set our zoom to 2. All right, so this will create a map. Now we'll have to do some attribution because we are using a free tool. So we have to give credit where credit is due. To do that, do l.title layer. And in here, I'm gonna paste some things. Voila. And we'll do add to map. So we'll create a title layer and we'll add it to our map. Now we need to create an array for our heatmap. So for heatmap data is an empty array, and we will need to get our data. Do you remember we have our data in here in a PHP variable, but we actually do need it in a JavaScript variable. To do that, I'm gonna do for data is PHP echo JSON encode data out of PHP. Okay, look closely at the syntax because it's a bit weird, but this will get the PHP data, encode it JSON wise, so it's a string. It's a string, but it will make it into JSON and it will put it in the data array. We do need some actual data to work with. So on the screen, I'm now showing you some latitude and longitude. So it's a CSV file with the first line, the header is lat, comma, long, and then or lat and lng, and this is some coordinates. You can get this data.csv file from the GitHub repo, so you don't have to copy or type it over. But with that data, we could go to our widget, and we would go to local, upload, data, select, publish. And now when we go to our page, we already have a map over here, so that's working. And title layer is not a function. Let's see what I've done wrong. First, let's close this. Okay, so tile layer, sorry, it's tile layer, tile layer. Let's refresh. Okay, so here's our map. And now let's do something cool. So as I told you before, we will put the data from the PHP into the JavaScript. So let's console log the data we got here. And let's do a var dump here. So this is the PHP data, and this is the JavaScript data. Let's refresh our page. Over here we have a string of lat longs. This is the data we provided in PHP. And over here we have our console log, which is our data as a JSON encoded object. So now we can do something with it. I am going to remove the console log and the var dump. And now we will put the data on the map. To do that, we will get the Papa library, Papa Parse, data, open an object. We will have header because we have lat and long. We will use dynamic typing, set it to true. And then once parsing is done of the CSV file, we will run the complete function. Complete is a function, and it will get results. Here we'll do var heatmap data is an empty array. First of all, we have to check if the results doesn't contain errors. So if results.errors.length is bigger than 0, then we'll console error, CSV parsing error results.errors, I hope I have errors here, errors and errors multiple. This will just do an extra check to see if something happens. If our CSV file is corrupt or we have an empty line in there, it will give an error. Else, we'll do results.data.forEach function row, and let's console log the row so you can see what is happening. It seems I've made a small typo. It's for each with a capital, and in here let's refresh. Now we have our data. It's an object with a lat and a longitude, lat and longitude. Okay, so now that we have that, we can start building our heat zones. So var lat is parse float row.lat, as we've seen here, row.lat, and we'll do the same for the long, so lng. Then if is not none lat and is not none long, we'll do heatmap data push, and we'll push an array of lat and long. What this is going to do is we're going to check if we actually have values, so it's not 0 or not a number, so none, and then we'll put it into the heatmap array we put over here. Then we'll see if heatmap data.length is greater than 0. Then we'll do var heatmap layer is l.heatlayer heatmap data, and our radius will be 30. These are all options which I'm gonna set on the Heatlayer function. You can Google that on the Leaflet library. So blur is 20, and we'll have a gradient of 0.40 blue. I'm gonna add some more. 0.6 will be cyan. 0.7 will be lime. 0.8 will be yellow. And 1.0 will be red. And we'll have a minimum opacity of 0.9. And now that that's done, all we have to do is add to map, exactly like we did over here. So now if I refresh the page, you will see nothing. Reference error is none is not defined. Of course, we will need a capital and not a number. Another L is not defined. I am Mr. Typo. Voila, there is our widget. Okay, I hope you all learned something. You can easily use all kinds of libraries in conjunction with Elementor widgets to create easy to customize widgets. So if it's a bit hard for your customer, you can create a widget and he can just adapt some settings and he will have a great chart widget. You could do all kinds of things with this. Okay guys, that's it for today. I hope you learned something. If you did, or if you didn't, feel free to drop a like or subscribe for more of this type of content. Cheers.